And we're live. Doing well. How are you?
Good.
What are we talking about today?
Leading beyond the numbers. I mean, you said it a little differently than I did, but I said leading beyond the numbers, how great leaders balance KPIs with caring for their people.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance between doing things right and doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, give me some examples.
So I think every business has numbers. I mean, to hit. We've got sales, we've got labor, we've got food costs, speed of service, guest scores, profit, and all of that matters. But great leaders know that people drive those numbers. The numbers don't.
Leaders in general know that.
Yeah. Great leaders. Great
Well, I would say that's
yeah.
I would say that's one of the defining characteristics, or the distinctions between managers and leaders. I think managers really focus on those numbers. They can, for lack of a better word, manage numbers.
Right. So when you focus only on numbers, people burn out.
Yeah.
And when you care only about people, results suffer. And I think the best leaders refuse to choose between numbers and people.
Mm-hmm.
They lead with both.
So how do you do that?
Numbers tell you what happened. People tell you why.
Because I'm not sure if I agree with totally that when a leader focuses on people, the results suffer. I'm not sure I agree with that.
No, but if you only focus on people and you don't look, you need to have both. I mean, a good leader, I think, looks at the KPIs and they say, let's look at food cost and in particular, and your goal for your unit as a manager, as a leader of that unit, is 30% food cost.
Mm-hmm.
And the last, let's say, 3 weeks,
right,
you've been over.
Yeah.
And so if you're only focused on numbers and you've been over, you start cutting ordering, you cut food costs, you cut, if it's labor, you start cutting hours. But I think the great leader looks at what, they see my food cost, they look at the KPI, it's 32, it's 32, it's 32, or my labor's, let's do labor instead. My labor's, 2 points high, 2 points high, 2 points high. The great leader goes to their people and says, why? The manager just cuts hours. So you need to look as a leader. You need to know your KPIs. You need to know what your sales are. You need to know what your food cost is. You need to know what labor is. You need to know speed of service, throughput numbers. I mean, all of it matters. But if you just focus on numbers, people burn out, people suffered. But if you only focus on people without looking at your KPIs can direct you to where to focus on people. So if I'm 2% over on my labor and I just cut hours, I'm gonna kill my people. But if I'm 2 points over on labor and I go to my people and I say, hey, why are we 2 points over on labor? And I find out that we've been scheduling 3 brand new employees on a shift at the same time, training is lax. We need to, then I know the why so that I can adjust and say, okay, let's give, I've delegated training to someone. I say, go to that trainer and say, let's, give Joe some extra training on.
I know what you're saying, and I'm not being contrarian when I say it. I'm just trying to equip the listener, because I know that if and when a direct report of mine comes to me and just says why, that's going to put me on the defensive right away. Why?
No, well,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I understand what you're saying. So that's the strategy, but I think like tactically, that's where we have to, you and I, equip the listener. Is like, okay, so when David says why, I don't think David's necessarily saying
no. It's not
why.
It's not an accusatory.
Why?
I mean,
you ran a 33% labor this past week. Why?
Yeah.
Right? It's not. He's not saying that. What he's saying is, have a conversation. So it looks like we were a little bit high in this past week on labor, and that's all you have to say. And then from there, the people will start telling you
Right.
their side of the story.
Yeah, you can dig into it even more. I mean, yeah, my why is not accusatory. You know that because I've asked you why lots of times. You know, and it's never. I mean, probably because you know me, you know it's not accusatory. But I think that's where, and we talked about this, you know, on the phone yesterday and that, but KPIs and people is where accountability and empathy work together.
Right.
You know, KPIs are accountability. Empathy is people.
So as far as a real world example goes, in terms of, let's talk about the labor piece for a minute, in terms of balancing leadership and the numbers, they're doing things right versus doing the right thing. I had a guy come to me once who had a lot of potential. He had all the skills. He needed a little work in the attitude department, and he knew that, and he and I were working together on that. And one of the times he kind of slipped, and I just said, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about your attitude. And he said, okay, I needed that. It's just that I'm going through a lot right now. I just missed a payment on my truck, and the truck is all I have. And I said, okay, well, what can we do about your hours? How many hours are you getting? Well, right now I'm getting about 35. How many can you handle? Well, I would love to get 40. I'm like, okay, well, did you want to come in tomorrow night and help them close? Well, that would put me at overtime. And I said, I don't care. Now, so that to me was an example of doing the right thing versus doing things right. Because from a managerial KPI standpoint, that might be a red flag in terms of overtime, because it's quote unquote an easily preventable or controllable cost that can be easily avoided, especially in some concepts where you have staff sizes of 30 or more on a roster. But at the same time, I saw this guy, I heard him, I've been where he's at, having driven a car that had no power steering or brakes, and he also wants to do well, and he wants to grow in the store. So in that case, that's where the nuance comes in, and that's what the whole episode is about.
Right.
And so from the KPI standpoint, probably didn't do things right there. But from a leadership standpoint, I'm going to stand by that and say that I did the right thing.
But you invested in people first. But you're not going to run overtime for the next, you know, you ran overtime one time that week, right?
For one person.
For one person. You're not going to run overtime every single week for the next year.
Right.
Because you know that KPIs matter. People matter, KPIs matter. You as a leader have to balance those two.
Yeah, and you also have to know situational. You also have to have situational, to use your word, awareness.
Right.
And, well, is that one you, well, no, you said self-awareness. Self-awareness. So you have to have situational / self-awareness, knowing that, okay, right now, because that also happened during the busiest time of the year, so you can sort of, quote unquote, hide that overtime.
Well, you can hide it, but you can also, I mean, having that overtime may increase throughput, which we know
Throughput is profit.
Throughput is profit. So you've just increased profit. So, you know, you look at it number wise, and you say, okay, this guy got an hour and a half, 2 hours overtime, which was, 15 or 7, maybe $15
right
in overtime, right? But we increased our throughput by X. So I spent $15 extra in my KPI, but we made 100.
And who knows how long that guy will be with us as a result. And so that's retention.
Right.
That's ascension. That's internal promotion.
And retention is, as a just a regular person on the line, that's $2,000. That's $2,000. Now, if you were only focused on KPIs and not people, so I said there has to be a balance. But if you were only focused on KPIs and not people, you would have said,
tough shit.
You would have said tough shit, but you also would have said, you know what? I've talked to you already once about your attitude.
Goodbye.
You're getting a write-up.
You're right.
And so he gets a write-up. His attitude doesn't improve. It gets worse because he got a write-up. But you took the time to investigate. Hey, and you empathized. I've been where you're at. I know what that feels like. This is what I can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is within my power to do this for you. How many times have I written people checks? I'm having a car problem. Let me write you a check. Hey, I'm having issue with this. Let me give you an advance and you pay it back to me $10 a paycheck.
Yeah.
I've written $1,000 checks for people.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Invest in people first. Train often. Recognize wins. I love what you sent me the picture of. Most improved. You recognize wins.
Yeah, that was, and they talked about that, piggybacking off of your first thing when you talked about investing in people. That was, in order to invest in your people, you have to investigate before you invest. And what do I mean what do I mean by that in this particular sense? I don't know, have a conversation with them, get their ideas out on the table, because that whole thing was not my idea.
No,
that was one of my AGM's ideas, to have the most improved, because we had talked about having a employee of the month or an employee of the period, but when we still implemented that, but at the same time, it's just like the same guy. We've got an absolute all-star of a minor who could just win it every single month. But the most improved, that is something that could change every single month, and something that could be seriously gunned for every single month, like the minors.
I like that better than employee of the month, because like you said, every store probably has one or two shining stars. That's the person that's going to win employee of the month every single month.
Yeah.
But most improved is going to be a new person probably every month.
Oh, yeah.
And, hey, I want to win this most improved, so that's motivating me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's not much. Full disclosure, it'll cost us $40 a month to get a new acrylic award like that.
Yeah.
But that's nothing.
At $40 a month, and $40 a month is nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Right.
If you are investing in your people.
Yeah.
That's absolutely nothing.
So if you're an RGM listening to this, depending if you're making anywhere between 50 and 70K, which I think is the majority of what most RGMs make, you should be willing to invest at least that per month in something like that. Because again, you guys don't understand, well, maybe you do, but so little means so much to your people. Yeah. Right?
What is it you always say? People work for a paycheck,
but die for recognition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
$40 of recognition will pay dividends. And because again, but then you're also separating yourself from your peers in your franchise or concept, because who's doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, nobody. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah, I spend more than $40 a month on Mountain Dew.
Yes, he does. But that's a serious differentiation between you and your peers if you do something like that, because again, there are so few leaders in our industry. Most people in your position, if you're listening to this, are managers, so they're going to focus more on the numbers. What David and I are equipping you with are the things that leaders embody. Yeah. And this industry is starving for those things.
Every KPI is the result of someone's actions. No, whether your KPI is good or bad, it's the result of someone's actions. So, the other thing I want to say to your point about the $40 and recognizing the most improved player, and it costs you $40 in an acrylic trophy, it makes your job more than $40 easier.
Yeah.
So it makes you, as the leader, it makes your job easier.
Yeah. I was just talking to the young man that I'm working with in Kansas, the Dave's Chicken RGM, and we were talking about how he can motivate his team and all these things, and he just said, "Well, then this place is going to run without me." Well, yeah, that's the idea.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
How many times have I said that?
Yeah.
You make yourself redundant. You know.
That's the definition of a good manager.
Yep.
I don't know.
A
It's weird.
definition of a good leader.
A good leader.
Yeah. But, you know, a good leader focuses on both KPIs and people.
Mm-hmm.
KPIs tell you where to focus. People improve KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why I say don't just look at KPIs, but also don't just look at employees. You got to focus on. You got to look at both. You got to focus on both.
So let's talk about some real world examples.
Let's
talk about labor.
The labor one. I mean,
let's say you're in the red on labor.
Yeah, I wrote this down here. I did a case study on labor. Here's an example. QSR example. A restaurant misses its labor target for three straight weeks in a row.
Okay.
A leader focused only on numbers cuts labor.
A manager.
Focused. If you're a manager, you're only focused on the numbers, you're going to cut hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a leader focused on people, and you go to your people and say, hey, you know what? We haven't hit labor the last 3 weeks. We haven't hit our labor budget KPIs. And they learn that, like I said, there are several new employees who weren't trained great.
Mm-hmm.
So the leader then says, okay, I've got to deploy some people to work with these people, train them, bring them up, help them get their speeds faster, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And better training improves speeds, it lowers labor, raises guest satisfaction, the numbers improve because the people improve. You know, at the end of the day, people aren't line items on a P&L. They're the reason the P&L succeeds.
So, may I?
Yeah.
So the manager would do, now we're sounding like a broken record, but hopefully we're getting into the skulls of our listeners.
Yeah.
The manager is going to see that number. Let's say a brand new manager comes in to that location. The manager is going to see the number and be like, oh, okay. And then just start hacking away at hours.
Right.
The leader is going to deploy himself all over the map and see what exactly the issue is. Is it a lack of training? In my experience, and I'm not trying to be adversarial when I say, is it a lack of training? Sometimes it is, but in my experience, it's just a lack of motivation. Well, and the reason why I say that is because the two stores that I've been in since being with this particular concept, I asked two shift leads, one at either store that I trust, and I said, what was the difference? And they both said the same word, motivation. So, but that's the point where David and I are talking about. It's like the manager's just going to cut hours. The leader's going to go in and see what exactly the problem is. Is it just a lack of motivation? People are just there, just a warm body, as David says, or did they just lack motivation? Are they because if you go in there, and you're high energy, and you know how to lift the spirits, you know how to turn the temperature up in a room just by walking into it. And talking to people and getting them excited to be there and painting a picture of what their life could possibly look like a year from now, because you can go from outhouse to penthouse in this industry. Well, then their performance might increase multiplicatively just simply by motivation. And then from there, well, then you don't need as many bodies. And so then you can make the necessary cuts. But then from there, like the analogy that we've used time and time again, is since we're in Michigan, I talk about myself being Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions. I only have a certain amount of players to play. The best players are going to play. And so what does that do? Well, that motivates people to put on their best performance when they come in. And then you just try and make the job as simple as possible. Well, what is the job? Well, in our industry, the job is throughput. So you know what you can do to tell if you did a good job before you left? Is if that number's green on the leaderboard. Right. That's it. The job is a color.
Right. Yeah, it's KPIs.
Yeah.
So that's where you.
But you know what I mean? Like, so that's a huge distinction between leader and manager.
Right. That's where the leader uses KPIs. I mean, everything you talked about kind of was, I summed it up in my head in one word: deployment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like the head coach of the Lions is going to deploy their best people. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The great leader is going to deploy their best people, you know, and you know, obviously, you know, the best, you know, tight end isn't going to make the best quarterback. So you're going to deploy strategically, obviously, you know, and as a leader in QSR, you know, the best person at the POS, it may not be your best food maker.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you're going to deploy the best person to the
You're going to put the right people in the right seats.
right. You know, so that's deployment. So deployment may be the issue. We know we have a labor problem because we looked at our KPI.
Yeah.
Now we need to investigate as a great leader, what's the labor problem? Is it training? Is it motivation? Is it deployment? Is it, maybe it's, I don't, you know, and so that's what I'm saying by you've got to look at both. Yeah. People create the numbers, invest in the people, and the numbers are going to follow.
And if you were to look at, I mean, so the motivation piece can kind of go a lot of different ways in terms of, I mean, the motivation, not well, yeah, a lot of different ways, but it can also, it can lateralize. It can lateralize from labor. It can lateralize from food waste, like what your variance is. Because if somebody's not motivated to portion properly, well, then you're never going to make, right?
Food cost waste is going to go.
Yeah, and then the same thing, but then the same thing from labor to food waste also goes into, again, and that's the easiest one, quote unquote easiest one, which is speed of service, or what we talk about primarily, throughput, right? So I don't know. I mean, maybe it really is that simple if we're in terms of the KPIs aspect of it. Is there a training piece involved? Sure, of course. But I mean, in my experience, I don't think, I know you think differently. I don't think of myself as the best trainer or coach, but I just know how to motivate people.
Right. You're a great motivator. But so you have self-awareness and say, you know what, I don't think of myself as a really great trainer. But that person over there, Joe, who works for me, my AGM or my shift lead, is phenomenal at training. So he's gonna. I'm delegating training to him.
Yeah.
You know, so you have self-awareness about what you're good at, what you're not good at. You know, but you also know, hey, this isn't a strength of mine, but it's certainly a strength of Joe's. So I'm deploying Joe as my trainer.
Yeah, I had somebody come up to me, a shift lead of mine, and he found, he was doing a whole bunch of stuff. He was cleaning the rethermalizer, and he had pointed something out to me about that, and then he had found a spider web in the dining room, and he had pointed that out to me, and then after about the third thing that he pointed out to me, I just said, do you want to take over the cleanliness chore list? He said, I would love to. And I said, great. But I don't want you being the only one who does it.
Right.
right. Yeah. So now I'm delegating that to you, but you need to delegate chores to everybody else in the store.
Well, you made an announcement to your team. Joe is in charge of the cleanliness checklist.
Yeah.
You know, Joe is going to be the one that's delegating. You know, you have to delegate your authority as an RGM to Joe.
Yeah.
You know, and your team has to know, I have delegated this authority to him.
Yeah.
And so whatever he tells you that has to deal with the cleaning checklist, consider it coming from my mouth.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's how a leader would handle it.
Right.
How a manager would handle it is, with our store is dirty, we need to get a way cleaner. What does that mean? First of all. And then second of all, and then second of all, who owns what?
Yeah. What does way cleaner mean?
Yeah. So I was going to go somewhere else with that. Oh, so what we just basically touched on there, and this is another real world example of that same employee, not the one who was the clean freak, the one who's got a bit of an attitude issue. Two other people of mine, he came up to me and he said, I forget what he asked me to do. He asked me if he wanted me to do something. And then I looked at somebody else and I said, and she saw me look at her when he asked me that question. I said, well, what do you think? And then she said, Well, yeah, actually, that would be really helpful if you did that. And then I called her in and I said, leadership as a tool in and of itself for leadership, that's a good thing. Did you see what I just did there? And I said, you made him you became a better leader by me just simply making you a leader. Does that make sense? Like using leadership as a tool for itself in terms of leadership, like that's, again, what David and I talk about is really kind of simple, right? Like leadership as a tool in and of itself makes leaders, right? But it just empower people, empower excellence through empowerment, but managers don't do that.
Right.
Managers don't do that.
Here's a real world example. I had a DM that one of their stores, it seemed like forever to get cars through drive-through. So if you timed, we timed drive-through times, and the cars jumped from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. And I said to that person, find out why, and let me know. Find out why it's taken forever to get through drive-through, And that DM went to the store manager and said, you need to get your drive-through times faster. And then they came back to me, said, I told them to get their drive-through times faster. And I'm like, why are their drive-through times slow in the first place? I want to know why it's taking longer to get through drive-through. Oh, I don't know. I just told them to get it faster. So I went to the store. I said, hey, what's going on here? It seems to be going really slow through the drive-through. Let's investigate. Hey, Mr. Manager, restaurant manager, what's the issue here? He said, we're having a real problem with the headset. And we can't hear the customer. The customer can't hear us. We're just having a real issue with the headset. I said, well, get the headset fixed. Let's get the headset fixed. Let's remove the barrier that's causing the problem. I went back to that DM. I said, do you know you had a headset issue at that store, and that's why it's taken so long to get to drive-through? No, but I told them to get their times faster. So I use that as a coaching session for leadership, You
have no idea how much I hear that from peers these days. It's crazy. Well, I told them. I told them. What does that mean?
So I realized that I needed to have a coaching session with that DM, about leading, about the KPI is telling me there's a problem. I want to know what the problem is. Can we fix it?
Yeah.
Not get your times faster. And if I hadn't gone in and investigated myself personally, how long would that drive-through speaker issue have continued?
It's like what you and I were talking about last night. So I'm a fan of Alex Hormozy. There's actually one of his books sitting on the table right there. His entire business model essentially is he gives away the what. He gives it all away. He gives it all away.
Right.
All of the what. He sells the how. You got to buy the how. It's somewhat analogous to the situation that you were just talking about. Part of the reason why that works for him is because people want to buy the how. They want to know what the how is.
Right.
You've told me the what, and it's great. I love it. Appreciate you for that. But now I want to take the next step with you. I want to know how. It's the same thing with that particular DM that you were talking about. He was just giving them the what, but they're like, "What's the how? What's the how?" Right? Yeah. So I thought of that when you said that. But
that's a real world example about communicating, and that I think the best leaders never ignore the numbers. They simply remember that every number begins with a person. Great leadership means engaged people, better execution, stronger KPIs, better financial results.
Yeah.
I bought stores to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're every single owner of a franchise, every single owner of the store that you work at, or you know, the 5 stores that you're the DM of, or whatever. We're in it to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad thing at all.
No.
You know, that's what's great about. Yeah, and to be honest, every single person that works for us to make money.
Not a problem.
No, not at all.
No. If you're watching and the screen is black, it's because it's almost 90 degrees in West Michigan right now, and I'm sure that my phone is overheated.
Oh, no.
I can see that we no longer have a picture on the laptop. That's fine, but you can still listen to the sound of my voice.
Right. You know, great leaders don't choose between people and performance. They know people create. Yeah, I'm speaking in a lot of bumper stickers today, aren't I?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's again, I just go back to the conversation I had 4.5 hours ago with the RGM of that Dave's Hot Chicken in Kansas City.
Oh,
It's
right,
just
yeah.
we were just going over some of the things that he's experienced. And this is our third call. He's already seen a 50% reduction in food waste, and he's almost seen a 2% drop in labor percentage just off of some of the principles that you and I talked
Right.
about.
So he's looking at, I mean, he's doing both, you know, like what we said at the beginning. Great leaders look at both KPIs and people.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yes. And one of because you know me, I'm almost to a fault, so focus oriented, just one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that he was focused on is throughput. In fact, he said, and I quote, "This is the best tool I've ever used." And the tool that he was talking about was the throughput calculator.
Yeah, which is great. And, you know, go to the website, look at it, download it. It's a phenomenal tool.
So that is like the perfect integration of what David has been talking about in terms of amalgamating the numbers with the people. So he told me that their average check is $26, and he proposed to his AGM, why don't we just try and push 2 more cars for every peak hour that we have? And she said, 2 more cars? And then he plugged it in, and then you could see multiplicatively what that would do for the store's revenue over the year.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what he said? He said, this is great. He said, crumbs make cakes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah. Crumbs make cakes. And then from there, that's where you started seeing those things just fall in line. Like
Yep.
Dave and I always talk about, throughput is profits. All of a sudden, 50% reduction in food waste, almost 2 points down on labor because they're just focusing on pushing cars. Throughput. And he got his people on board with it. And now what we're doing from here is we're getting him to create a very clear universal goal and communicating it with the team. And then from there, incentivizing it. And then he can get the hell out of the store and just have it run by itself.
Right.
And so that's it's pretty much what David and I talk about ad nauseum, and that's what we do. So if you're listening and you want to make that leap from overworked manager to promotable leader and have the store run just as good or better without you, and you want to fast track this process, click the link in the show notes, grab that fast track playbook. You're going to get that calculator. You're going to get a 28-day case study. You're going to get a video walkthrough. And if you want to take the next steps with David and I, it's all right there for you. It's all right there for you. And in the meantime, if you want more resources, check out the YouTube channel. There's plenty of resources and content there. Grab my book, The Way Out of Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery, available at huntercharneski.com or Amazon. You got anything else right now?
No, I just, you know, you got to focus on both KPIs and people. But remember, people create KPIs.
100%. You good?
I'm good.
All righty. Talk to you guys next time.